I actually have a great example of this. And that I was talking to a friend today, and she's been on a path since the beginning of the year, since January 1st, of really tracking macros and working on lifting heavier. That was one of her goals of the year, was to get to a certain percentage of body fat. So she's been working, tracking macros, changing lifestyle, doing all the things. And we were talking this morning, and she was like, it's so frustrating because I look in the mirror and I feel like nothing's different. I don't see anything different. People say they can, but I don't see it. And she had an appointment yesterday, and she did one of those in-body scans, which measures body fat and the amount of percentage of, skeletal muscle mass. And she was all excited, and she's like, that was the information that I needed, because I've actually gained 3 pounds of muscle and I've dropped like a half a percentage in body fat. So even though I can't see it in the mirror, I'm still taking the action, and I've now gotten to a point where I got more information in a different way, which confirms that I'm on the right track. And so she's going to keep going. But I think that's a great example of how we look for results in one way or in one perspective or in one thing. And if we don't see it, so in this case, it's the mirror. I don't see anything different in the mirror. But when we continue to take action, and in this case, add a different action, I'm now doing a different scan, you see results in a different way. So maybe it's not visual in this point, but there is evidence of progress being made. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was awesome.
No, and that's a great example. And the physicality piece, I think, is so important because it is the thing about physicality in that example is you can at some point see transformational confirmation yourself. And I think the physical, like having it in a visible world is really important when it comes to people's mentality, as an example, right? Your perseverance, your ability to overcome your internal voice. It's not as cut and dry. It's not as clear for some people. Only you know how to win those internal battles, right? And so sometimes it's like, hey, I did this thing. I convinced myself to get out of bed at 5 o'clock in the morning, right? Or I went to that gym, or, I went outside and did my walk, and nobody can tell any different, but I feel proud of myself. And so I think just understanding the longevity, the timepiece that you may not see all these things visibly is extremely important, especially when it comes to building things like skill sets or internal monologues when you're trying to really tackle your own narrative and flip your mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe I feel that, and I think you do too, in just doing things over and over and over. And, for example, talking on a podcast, right? That's something that I've been working on now for a couple of years. I still feel like it's a skill in progress, and it makes me feel good to know that I'm continuing to work on a skill, even though I don't feel like I've mastered it. And the individual podcast host, of a specific show probably has no idea that I've been working on this for 2 years.
Hmm.
They just see the product of it today. And
Hmm.
so I think what I also want people to hear is, people in specific moments in your life probably won't recognize the journey that you've had and the work that you've put in. So in the work, find ways to be proud of what you're doing, even if you're not all the way to the result that you are wanting to ultimately get to at this time.
Yeah, no, 100%.